And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we move on quickly to our next panel discussion where we tackle opportunities to expand beyond the local borders. May I please welcome here on stage Dean Bernales, the founder and CEO of Unicorn Strategies, to introduce our panelists for our Start Local and Grow Global session. And just to let all of you know, Dean began his business here in the Philippines. And right now, he's currently based out of the UK where he's grown his PR, digital PR business, not just in the Philippines, but in Singapore and the UK at the same time. A round of applause, please, Dean Bernales. Dean, come on down.
Hello? Hello everyone and welcome to our panel discussion titled Start Local, Grow Global, Factors to Look at Penetrating the ASEAN Market. I'm Dean Bernales, the founder and CEO of Unicorn Strategies, PR, your moderator for this exciting panel session. Today we're exploring the transformative journey of startups from local inception to global expansion with a special focus on the ASEAN region. The ASEAN region is a vibrant hub for growth, offering unique opportunities and challenges for innovative businesses. Our conversation will delve into what it takes for startups to successfully enter and thrive in the ASEAN markets, covering everything from technological adaptation to cultural insights and strategic partnerships. Joining us in this panel, first would be Mr. King D, the co-founder and CEO of Expeda. Come on down, King, please sit down and join me here. Please give him a big round of applause. Next will be Mr. Constantine Roberts, co-founder and CEO of Local. Next would be Ms. Claire Ocampo, co-founder of Parlon. And last but not the least is Mr. Jamie De Los Santos, co-founder and CEO of Advance. So each of them represents a successful story of growth and a vision for regional expansion. They will share valuable insights from their own experiences. Without further ado, let's begin this exciting discussion. Alright, so our first segment will be about your current pursuit for expansion in ASEAN. My first question would be, please discuss what your startup is all about, and then talk about the current pursuits in terms of market expansion that you have with your respective startups. I want to start with you, perhaps Jamie. Pick up the mic.
Hi everyone. So I'm Jamie De Los Santos, co-founder and CEO of Advance. So we're a fintech company that originated here in the Philippines, and we actually had our first expansion to a new country this year.
Which is?
We went to Vietnam and officially launched in Vietnam in May of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please discuss what your startup's all about.
So what we do is we're a fintech and we provide early access to earnings. Started with employees and now we work with businesses across the Philippines and Vietnam as well.
Great. Claire, can you follow that?
Hello, I'm Claire Ocampo. Good afternoon. So, what is Parlon? It's actually a combination of parlor and salon combined, Parlon. So, you go there, you discover, book, and buy the best beauty and wellness services online. So, we started in the Philippines and we started expanding in Singapore. We started onboarding merchants in Singapore.
Next, Robert. Constantine.
Hey folks, I'm Constantine, co-founder of Locat, with the logistics engine for modern consumer brands, providing a cloud supply chain, so fulfillment and access to transport providers across Southeast Asia and Australia, and also started in the Philippines.
Next, King.
Hey everyone, my name is King. I am the CEO of Expeda. What is Expeda? Expeda is the data infrastructure of global trade. What we're doing is we're enabling international freight forwarders and carriers to automate the different processes they have with artificial intelligence. Where are we expanding? So we had our first few customers here in the Philippines. That said, we have left the Philippine market and now we have 0 customers here. All our customers are everywhere else.
That's a very interesting insight. I wanna delve more upon that later on. But I wanna ask you guys a question, the reason behind your market expansion. And of course, when you expand, we expect that your local presence is, something it's you really grow from your local market. That's why you decided to expand. So please give us, some insights about the reason behind your expansion and why did you choose that country? Yeah, yes, please. Hmm.
Okay, so in my experience, we started out in the Philippines, right? We got our first 5 customers, but then very quickly we realized there wasn't much purchasing power in the market. We still tried to sort of iterate and create a product for those first 5 sort of design partners, but then we realized that that wasn't effective because it wasn't optimal for the markets we actually wanted. And so we ended up dropping those 5 customers and re-implementing it in North America. So we picked up a couple of customers in the US, then Canada, then we got customers in Italy and France. And yeah, we just started scaling up from there.
Yeah, but in terms of ASEAN context, which countries have you expanded to?
Then we expanded to Singapore and Indonesia. And so essentially the way we thought about it within the ASEAN market is we just thought about like, look, which market has the most purchasing power? We looked at the minimum wage. We looked at how much knowledge workers were getting caught since with our automation, we're essentially replacing those people, right? And so that's why we went for Singapore and Indonesia.
But why Indonesia over Philippines? Like, I mean, it's almost similar market, right? So,
Why Indonesia? Well, to be fair, they just wanted to give us more money.
okay, I mean that's a bigger market. That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Same question with you, Constantine. You mentioned earlier that your home base is in Singapore. Am I right? Or you expanded in Australia, but in ASEAN, have you experienced expanding your market across the ASEAN region?
Yeah, so we started in the Philippines back in 2020. So it was our first market and it's still a key market for us. So we're still very much here, both in the local market, serving Philippine brands and bringing their products to consumers across the Philippines. And we also have a fairly large part of our central team here in Manila supporting both our PH market and some of the others. I think one thing for us was that PH would always be a big market, but it would probably not be big enough on its own. And part of our DNA was always wanting to help other brands expand across Southeast Asia and maximize the ASEAN opportunity. And hence we build out that network across Southeast Asia. So today, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines, and then Australia. Why Southeast Asia? Because ultimately, fairly similar consumer markets, similar e-commerce markets with platforms like Lazada and Shopee, and many of the brands that are grown in one market, like homegrown Philippine brands, Indonesian brands, are making the next step, selling across ASEAN, and we want to make that very simple and enable that. And then I guess why Australia? Because they pay more money, so it pays to be in one market that has a slightly higher average ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Claire?
Yeah, so actually when I was starting Parlon, my mindset already was, this will be a global company. You may laugh at me, but I actually reserved all the domain names of Parlon, Parlon.kr, Parlon.ca, Parlon.sg, everything, even the Instagramming. Day one, I will build this to be a global company. Why? Why ASEAN? Beauty is equal to Asia, right? Beauty equal to Philippines, Thailand, South Korea, Japan. So day one, so we built the product to be scalable globally. And actually, every time I go to other countries, I always continuous research and development. Like I study the behavior of most females and males, how they go to the salon, how they book to the salon, and of course the other side version. So every time I go to the other country, this is the haircut from Korea. So every time I go to the country, I experience how do they actually book online. So ASEAN is a good market. Probably we're heavily digitalized already, but it might be a long and hard game, but we will get there.
All right, great to hear that.
So for advance, to be honest, we actually had no plans of regional expansion, at least in the time that we did. What made it interesting for us was a strategic opportunity with a local partner in a market that is, I think, just typically very difficult for fintechs to tap into, and so we looked at that as an opportunity. There were a few players in a hot space that had just started as well, so the market was fairly fragmented, and we felt that with our know-how here in the Philippines, similar demographics, low credit card penetration, so as a credit provider, we wanted to make sure that there was a big enough market to service. We thought that it actually would make sense. But the big part of it was really having ties to local partners that would kind of open doors for us that, just normal entry wouldn't get access to.
Right, so we just talked about the advantages of doing a market expansion. Now I also want to know what are the challenges that you faced when you did expand in that target market, that target country.
I mean, Vietnam is it's a beautiful country. Just language alone is very different. Culture is very different.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of regulatory and compliance issues that are, unlike the Philippines, where it's a little easier to obtain certain licenses. So things like that, nuances of building a team, absorbing a team. We actually acquired a company over there. So, having to kind of instill the culture is
How about the tech adaptation? Are they similar with the Philippines in terms of adapting?
I'd say so. In fact, I think that there are some elements of the Vietnam banking infrastructure that are far ahead of what we have here. So some of the things that we think are beneficial to customers in the Philippines are actually quite common over there. So, you need to localize your products. Imagine you guys all.
All right, Claire, would you please answer them?
For Singapore, it was actually easier to introduce the technology in Singapore as compared to how I actually onboarded here in the Philippines. In Singapore, we're replacing another booking platform in case, right? In the Philippines, we are replacing pen and paper. So in terms of tech and explanation, it's easier. Of course, when I tried myself onboarding in Singapore also. Of course, they might be shocked that, oh, it's a Filipino brand. So it might not, it's probably one of the first Filipino app trying outside of ASEAN in terms of beauty platform, right? So, of course, there are hesitation for it's a Filipino app. But of course, come Parlor with a good brand and a good image and a beautiful platform. Labanan na lang ng technology. So far now we have more than 70 branches in Singapore instead in Parlor.
Great to hear. Constantine, how about you? What were the challenges that you faced when you expanded in Australia?
Yeah, I think as both have said, every country is a bit different and has its nuances. And I think depending on your space, you have to adjust either a lot or at least a little. In Lukat's case, luckily it's kind of just a little, but there's still adjustment needed. You still need to understand the local ecosystem, and that fundamentally costs bandwidth, whether it's your focus as founders, whether it's the bandwidth of your team, whether it's dollars and pesos. It defocuses, right? And I think one challenge we have in ASEAN, for all the great things we love this market for, but one of the challenges we have is that fundamentally ASEAN is very heterogeneous. Every country is different, languages are different, laws are different. So it's not like you just launch from the Philippines to Indonesia, like somebody goes from Texas to Arizona, right? Like there's a lot of nuances to figure out, and I think that's also a risk in an expansion.
Right. King, how about you? The way how you did an expansion, it's kind of it's not, I wouldn't say it's gradual, but the countries that you have targeted, it's not similar. Philippines, US, Indonesia, Singapore, those are different markets, right? So what were the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so I would say the way we approach globalization was really, well, first of all, we're lucky that we're in one of those industries, as God's mentioned, right, where we don't really have to change that much because we're working on international trade automation. globally, there's sort of some level of standardization with regards to what needs to get done. And so, from a purely tech perspective, it's really just exactly the same. That said, culturally, the way you sell, the way you approach, who you approach differs. Now, the way we've done it is we actually go through the conglomerates. So, for example, I can't say the name of our customers, but like a very large multinational business, for example, maybe we'll roll out with them in that country first, and then we'll use that as a case study to acquire new customers within the market. So that's pretty much how we did it.
Thank you for sharing that. Now I want to move on to the next segment, which is talking about your market entry mode. So, did you implement same strategies per market, or is it different from each market?
Like our go-to-market strategy, basically.
Yeah. Did you implement a joint venture strategy, franchising, licensing, direct export?
Our industry, well, our go-to-market's pretty old school. We just hit the phones really hard. I'm a cold calling machine, you know?
So you sold your services directly to that market.
Yeah.
Did you open an office or?
No, we just call them from wherever we are.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's a direct export mode of market entry actually. And that's the same thing we implement at Unicorn Strategy. So we have clients in Singapore without having physical presence there. Right. So I think we're almost similar in nature.
Yeah, I guess we just email them and they buy it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So how about you, Constantine? What's your market entry mode in Australia? Did you have strategic partnerships with a local entity, or how is it like?
Yeah, so in logistics and fulfillment, we have the benefit that it's not such a regulated space, so we didn't necessarily need to obtain licenses or do local partnerships. So we just basically went there, opened an entity, and because we launched Australia fairly early, we wanted to test. After we got product market fit in the Philippines, we wanted to test if it works in a more mature ecosystem as well. But we couldn't afford anyone in Australia because the salaries are damn high. So we figured, well, that was anyway sort of still COVID-ish. So we put some folks in our team here in Manila on Australia, made them change their LinkedIn location to Sydney. And we're like, well, I mean, if somebody asks, we have an office in Sydney. And then, beginning outbound, right? So email, cold calling, then at some point, we built a bit of an inbound marketing motion as well. We realized actually that Australians don't like to be cold called so much, so EU is now the market where we are much more inbound heavy than outbound heavy. So those are some of the nuances, maybe, right? In a market like Indonesia or Philippines, that classic demand gen playbook with ads and then inbound leads and people who find you and then already know what they want is a bit harder. But cold calling and emailing works a lot better. While in Australia, that fast didn't work so well, but we got a lot of people who knew exactly what they wanted and then researched online, and we just had to make sure we were present. And then talk to our people on a Zoom call, get a demo of the platform and get in there. So ultimately, I think in each market, especially go-to-market and customer success can be a little bit different than what works and what doesn't.
Do you have just to follow up on that, do you have a local presence in Australia? Yeah. Do you have an office, employees there? How is it like?
Yeah, so EU is our last country that is still hybrid. So other than that, we've gone back to the office 3 days a week and have offices in each market, like Manila, Jakarta, Singapore, 2 locations here as well. Not everybody loved that hybrid thing, but we generally found that it worked a lot better for us. But in Australia, given that we still have a team that is partially based here, partially based there, we're actually still quite lean. So we have 2 people there on the ground, and the rest are supported from Manila. I think one benefit for any PH-based company is that you can actually very credibly out of Manila build a team in sales, customer success, account management, and other customer-facing segments. to serve customers in Australia, in the States, in Singapore. I think that's where we have a massive advantage here versus markets like Vietnam or Indonesia, who struggle a lot more to sell globally. So I think that's maybe one thing we have going for us.
That's a very insightful information. Thank you for that. Claire, how about you? Is it a similar case? Do you have a local presence in Singapore?
Yeah, we have an entity in Singapore, but how did we do the merchant acquisition on the salon side? Right? Same traditional ways, cold calling, emailing, and like for 2 weeks, team of 2 ladies actually stayed in Singapore and onboarded the merchants there for 2 weeks. And definitely we can still onboard via Zoom, via email. It's as if you're onboarding someone from Cebu when you onboard someone from Singapore. As long as you have a good product, a good presence, a good image, so we're able to do that. But eventually, that's not going to be sustainable, the sales-led growth. We're aiming for a product sales growth that the merchants will be signing up. And I also believe like planting seeds, if I plant seeds now, probably I can launch the Singapore fully next year, or I plant seeds in Thailand, I can probably launch it in 2024, 2025. So every time I go to another country, I build relationships with salons. Like if I want to expand in Korea, I can onboard like probably 2 to 3 salons already. Canada, I can onboard more. So planting seeds might be a key. Building relationships really is important.
Sounds exciting. How about you?
Our go-to-market was a mix of taking advantage of the ecosystems we inherited, whether or not it was like the direct partnerships that we could tie up with, or using our investor network to introduce us to certain companies that were interesting. We also were very specific about the industries we wanted to service. I mean, Vietnam is quite massive in terms of employees. We selected 2 or 3 specific industries to go after. And then, yeah, from there it was a mix of more direct sales in the beginning and not trying to do some online activities.
Since you're in the fintech space, did you face any regulatory hurdles?
Yeah, we did. In fact, we're much more limited there today. We just signed a partnership with one of the local banks, which gives us a bit more flexibility. But unlike the Philippines, where you're able to acquire a lending or finance license, in Vietnam, it's unheard of, right? You have to really partner with these big institutions, a lot of regulatory issues that prohibit you from doing the basic activities that we get to do here. So here's an adjustment as well.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. How about you, Claire? Like you're also somehow in the fintech space, right? Do you need a license, or do you have to partner with an entity that has a license?
For Philippines, we are the first and only beauty platform to have an OPS license. Medyo I'm very masunurin, maaga pa lang I'm registered already for an OPS license in the Philippines. In Singapore, of course, is another story. We're still a discovery platform, but definitely once we enter the fintech space, I've actually started studying now the laws of Singapore and Thailand, so we'll get there. Yeah.
All right. Okay. How about you, Francisco? Did you face any regulatory hurdles, at least in your industry? No. I'm guessing no.
It always struggles. It's not as complicated in logistics as it is in very regulated industries. But yeah, just being allowed to fully own our entire entity was, I think, a 14, 16-month process, getting a board of investment license or whatever. So I think one thing that's easily underestimated is a bit the complexity that comes with just managing your housekeeping, corporate housekeeping, once you have like 5, 6 entities. And that's where ASEAN is unfortunately still terrible outside of Singapore. So I thought I got used to Philippine bureaucracy that can take some time, and then I came to Thailand and I was like, wow, this is like even more complex. And then it costs time and money, right? So I think probably the biggest risk in international expansion is just the amount of time and money and attention that it can suck out of you. Often for stuff that is not directly revenue generating yet, but just your tax filings, your license, your that license, your nominee director, your God knows what. Which is actually why one shameless plug here, why we just launched a service with Local that is called Trade Solutions, where we now help any brand to sell anywhere in the region with importer of record and merchant of record offerings. So if you're a brand from the Philippines, you want to like sell in Thailand, don't spend 2 years like me trying to get a local entity license and an import license. You can just use Local and sell anywhere.
How about you, Kim?
Fortunately, it's just old school B2B SaaS, no regulation whatsoever.
That's a good thing.
Well, okay, not completely. There's like some GDPR stuff, but that's like data protection, privacy laws in the EU. But elsewhere, we're fine.
Right. Great, great. So I wanna move to our next segment, talking about the level of localization that you need to implement. So if you can share more about that. Did you really localize or what's in the platform? That's what you offer.
Well, we do some automation for like customs entries, and so if the market's too small, we don't build out the integration for the customer. But if it's a big market, then we do it. So Australia, as an example, we're fully integrated with like you know their customs filings into XYZ countries, right? Also for Singapore, but for smaller markets, we don't do that. So how do we go about that? I mean, the process is pretty much you get your first customer sort of as a design partner and really just work with them to flesh out the details, work out that integration. Maybe you give them special pricing for a couple months, and yeah, after that you just scale it out to several more customers.
I understand that Indonesia is in terms of the local nuances of in terms of language, they speak Bahasa heavily. And you mentioned earlier that you're just doing cold emails with them. So how's the communication like? I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, I mean, we sell to international supply chain businesses, so fortunately, the language of trade is English.
Okay.
So we speak in English to everyone, except for the Chinese. That's
Right.
it. They just, yeah.
That's great to hear. How about you, Constantine? How much level of localization that you need to implement when you need a market expansion?
Yeah, I think initially very little, over time then a lot is how I would describe it, right? So when we launch in a country, we're deliberately not localizing much up front because the view is like, hey, let's launch with an imperfect product, see if there's a pain point that's strong enough. If we get some people to buy from us and find our first 10 happy customers without doing a lot of upfront localization effort, then we can probably find 100 others after once we exhaust all the local language, localization, and whatever. But over time, we realized that like once you get that traction, you have to go deeper. And yeah, I mean now when we sell to mid-market customers in Thailand or Indonesia, then it's certainly not in English, but with local content, local this and that, integrations, partnerships. But I think often you can get quite far in terms of initial testing the market by just launching the core product, at least if it's not a regulated something.
How about you, player?
Well, for Portland, again, when we were building this product, think global. So as much as possible, I wanted to be like cookie cutter, whether Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, but probably different toppings on top of the cookie. So for example, in the Philippines, of course, we're Viber first country. Everyone has Viber, so our booking reminders is via Viber, right? But in Singapore, our pitch is we will be integrating with WhatsApp. So Dee also mentioned about the localization of Indonesia. That's why our first country of expansion is Singapore. Obviously, it's easier because it's English. But I also got insight that if you get to Indonesia, we're not a B2B SaaS only, so it's consumer driven. It should be in Bahasa if you're targeting the locals. Otherwise, if I go with English, I will be targeting the foreigners. So this little inputs that I get. But it's a cookie cutter with different topics on top, making it local globally.
How about for advance? I'm guessing you did a lot because Vietnam is such a unique market.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to keep the products as similar to the Philippines as possible, as well as brand. I think trying to maintain a very consistent brand across both markets is important. But yeah, I mean, there's of course, having to customize in terms of language, the way we communicate certain things. Yeah, marketing is going to be a little different, but we also try to take advantage of the kind of regional offices that cross collaborate. And so yeah, there's a certain element of trying to keep things as streamlined as we could. But Yeah, even on the living side, like we didn't get maybe the rates actually are quite different over there.
Yes. Is it cheaper? Do you offer
Slightly cheaper.
Yeah, okay. Alright. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have much time, so I'm gonna ask you the last question, which is just talk about your last advice to startup founders here that are looking at to expand their presence in ASEAN.
I would strongly consider the opportunity you have here in the Philippines, to be honest. I think that the market here does need a lot of strong founders and startups, because there's, clearly areas that can be improved. If I could go back in time when I expand to Vietnam, I mean, maybe, but I also think that there's still a lot that has to be done here, and maybe focusing that effort should have been here, right? So it's something that I would strongly debate with your founding team if it really makes sense. On the flip side, if it gives you an opportunity to raise more capital because investors are looking for that regional play, that should play a part in your decision. So,
How about you, Claire?
For me, still don't lose focus. For me, it's dominate one market at a time, but planting seeds, different markets at a time also.
Yeah, I think it highly depends on your business model and your term. One thing I would look at is this a business that has a local winner, or is this a business that has a regional winner? And if it's a local winner business, then a multi-country play is just some of the parts, right? Which is then great, but then maybe dominate one first, exhaust it all, and then go to the next. Or is this a regional network effects business or global network effects business, where you're more likely to have a regional winner, and then maybe you need to do this earlier to build it into your DNA. I think that's quite important to determine what are the dynamics in your segment, local winning or regional winning, global winning.
And last but not the least,
Overall, I agree with what has been stated. I would just say, the Philippines needs more unicorns. We're gonna be one. You can be the next one too.
hey, thank you. Thank you, esteemed panelists, for your invaluable insights. Let's give them a big round of applause. As we conclude, it's evident that penetrating the ASEAN market requires a blend of strategic foresight, cultural sensitivity, and adaptable business models. Your experiences underscore the importance of local partnerships, regulatory adaptations. These takeaways are not just strategies, but pathways to transforming local startups into global contenders. This has been Team Bernales, and I hope you learned something from our panelists today. Thank you so much, and see you around.
Again, thank you so much, Team Bernales, for expertly having this panel discussion on Start Local, Grow Global. Can we please fight for a photo opportunity here in the front, inviting all our friends. Please upload your insights, your videos, your photos online using our hashtag. The hashtag we use is Philippines Startup Week 2023. Again, the hashtag is Philippines Startup Week 2023. And again, one big round of applause, please, Constantine, Jaime, King, and Claire. Thank you so much for the great insights. At kung kailangan magpaganda pagkatapos ito, just go online on Parlon after this is all done. Claire, how do we go to Parlon pala? How do we go to Parlon, just in case? Parlon.ph, okay, Parlon.ph. For your beauty salon needs, again, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for somebody to help you with your PR, Dean over here specializes in, Dean specializes over here when it comes to helping with tech startup PR. He does have the best in the country. So again, if you talk to Dean as well, if you need help in publicizing or marketing your startup, he's done a Packworks.
Packworks, Moburn, Boss Job, they are all here.
So all the major players, he's helped out. You can help out your startup here. So maraming salamat, Dean. Home just for the Sinigang Valley Conference from the UK.